Welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast, the show where we apply critical thinking to current events. I'm Cory, and I'm joined by Lisa.
I am here.
And Rene.
Hello.
Today is November 15th, 2019. If you want to contact us about the show, then you can do that by emailing us at mail@brainstormblog.net. And you can support the show at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. The first thing that we were thinking we'd talk about is from pinknews.com.
Oh, yeah.
Or pinknews.co.uk, actually. Saudi Arabia just declared homosexuality, feminism, and atheism as extremism. When I was reading it, I got the impression that they did this declaration, but also the prince was trying to paint it as though they were taking it back a little, like they weren't as harsh on it or whatever.
That's how I read the article, was that, yeah, he was trying to wheel it back because they've gone too far extreme because of the 1979 Iranian Revolution and all this kind of nicey nice stuff.
Right. And yet
he's also supposedly a guy that had a journalist hacked to pieces. So.
Yeah. He doesn't have a great track record. I'm not exactly buying his, oh yeah, I actually don't mind feminism and atheism and LGBTQ people.
We're finally letting the women drive cars. Look how progressive we are.
I'm not entirely buying it.
It doesn't seem good for any of the humans listening in this
it's
thing.
Saudi Arabia in general seems to have they don't seem to. They have an awful track record for human rights.
Well, I think a big part of that is because they jumped from the 7th century. I mean, yeah, this is going to sound really, really bad, but they jumped basically from the 7th century into the modern age in a generation. There's going to be some hangovers.
Or maybe it just means that technology doesn't change culture, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? People, it doesn't work that way. We think of, advances in technology as being part of a cultural change where, say, science and logic and reason overtake, say, religious dogma and superstition, et cetera, et cetera. But in fact, it may not be so.
Well, the irony of that is that eons ago, it was Islam that was pushing the science.
Yes,
right?
But,
Yeah,
that's true.
1,000 years later,
Right. I mean, I would argue that you probably wouldn't get the development. Of course, all technology, quote, stands on the shoulders of giants. So you wouldn't be able to get from, medieval technology to the technology we have now without embracing, say, the scientific method.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you don't necessarily have to in the modern age. And I don't understand exactly how my iPhone works, and yet I use it. Right. One does not have to buy into all that in order to.
It's not necessarily. I mean, that's kind of the comments I've read about Saudi Arabia, is that they kind of jumped like that, but you can modernize, but you not necessarily modernize. I mean, they follow, and I don't understand it at all, but they're Wahhabists, which is one of the most conservative forms of Islam.
Right.
Already a pretty conservative religion.
Yeah.
You're starting pretty conservative.
Yeah. I one of my passengers for Uber was actually from Saudi. And he was talking about, he was one type of Muslim, and he's talking about the other type as though they were like the extremists and the conservative ones. And
he's from Saudi?
Yeah.
He's probably Sunni.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't, yeah.
Could be, yeah. And he was talking about Shias, I think. I don't know. Can't remember. But it was interesting to hear direct, from somebody who lived there that, hey, well, this other group is the ones that, these are the guys that are the extremists, and they are the ones that blow themselves up. And
okay, but he would know the kind of situation that people live in Saudi Arabia.
It's just his perspective.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And I would also argue that as a man living in Saudi Arabia, he would not feel the restrictions that other people might feel.
Absolutely,
I mean, you go to the heart, go to the height of the division, and you ask the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant, and
exactly,
you would have got some interesting comparisons.
You talk to a Catholic about it, and you're going to get one viewpoint, and you talk to a Protestant about it, and they're going to get a whole other one. He was clearly a well-off person, but I don't know what the percentage of wealth is in Saudi Arabia, but.
Yeah, I don't know what the wealth gap is. I know it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, I know. I believe that there are some really poor areas in there. Of course, there's some incredible affluence there. I watched a documentary on this. I think it was on Frontline, which is a PBS show. Okay. They have a lot of really good documentary, and I believe they had one on like the side of Saudi Arabia that the Saudis don't want you to see, which like the slummier parts of their cities.
And it's also that's where a lot of their construction workers are from, and it's not purty. So, I mean, so you bring all that out, and it makes you question how progressive they really are.
Yeah,
on those issues.
I'm more inclined to believe that they think of feminists and atheists and LGBTQ people as extremists rather than like being like, oh, but we actually welcome these people with different perspectives and different lives.
We have school trustees in this city who think of LGBTQ people as extremists.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't have anybody thinking it'd be okay for a drag queen to read to kindergartners. That's insane. That's extreme.
Yeah, that was
super adorable.
Oh yeah.
And sparkly.
I didn't put out the episode we recorded before the election. But that was the part that I would have liked to put out, was the discussion on the Regina School Board stuff.
You could put it out as a bonus.
I could.
Or we could re-bitch about it now. But minus Angelus and not as good.
Yeah, that's true. It wouldn't be as good. Maybe I'll put it out as a bonus. All right. I also have, from the Friendly Atheist, a pastor who had a $4.4 million home. And he put it up for auction after he has to pay taxes now. So,
really, is there much more to say about that?
Think so. I think it kind of speaks for itself, right? He's hoping to make at least $2 million from the sale.
I mean, I read the article, and where it all just seems to be is like he had this lavish mansion, and he didn't pay taxes on it because it was under the church, and then they rented it out as a nightclub and an Airbnb.
Right. So you're making non-church dollars off of this church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at a nightclub, I'm sure they weren't praying.
Right. Yeah.
Well, maybe to the porcelain god after one too many Zambucas, but
Yeah, I don't really get the rationale of giving a tax break for an opulent home. Let's say you're a religious person, a lawmaker, and you thought that pastors or religious clergy offered something of value. Let's just take that as a given. I don't think it'd be unreasonable to say you get a tax break, because you're a pastor, you're doing good work, according to what you think, and you want to make it easy for these people to do that. Okay, fine, but maybe say, well, you get a tax break on a home up to X number of dollars, or like a modest place to live,
right.
a place a normal human being would live, and then anything you want over on top of that, and then you pay taxes on that. I mean, something like that would be, I think, a fair law, but
some kind of formula where you figure that out.
I mean, this is just my pet theory on it. I think the problem is they made this rule that churches get to exist tax exempt.
Okay.
But this is like a 200-year-old law. I have no idea how old it is.
Right.
But it was an idea because churches at a certain point, they provided a certain role in society. They did not have, prosperity gospel and televangelists and the mega churches. They didn't have the idea in their head of any of those things. And they're just exploiting an obvious old law, and there's these obvious glaring.
Yeah, like Creflo Dollar and his planes that he owned or whatever.
Him, the new, what was that prosperity preacher that Trump just announced as something in his White House? I can't remember. Paula White.
Oh, yeah. And her super creepy husband.
Yeah. I'm starting to think, what? This is just something that popped in my head with a couple other Trump stories, and I don't want to derail it into that. But I'm really starting to think that Trump runs his White House like it's a fucking Patreon account.
Yeah.
The more you contribute, the higher up in his organization you go.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Even we have many topics that we can talk about, but even in this impeachment, one of the people that it's
There's an impeachment?
There is so.
Joking.
Even one of the people that was supposed to be dealing with Ukraine was somebody who donated to his campaign.
Well, that's where I kind of got the idea for the
Sondland,
Patreon.
Yeah.
the EU ambassador that he appointed, he donated not to his campaign, but to his inaugural fund.
Oh, that's right.
He donated
yeah.
$1 million. He is like
He's a hotel guy.
he's a hotel guy on the west coast of the United States, and then then he donates $1 million and then gets an ambassadorship.
That's he was the guy I was thinking of when I thought of the idea that he treats it like a Patreon account.
Yeah.
And he stepped in some major shit, and he is, I'm sure, regretting
Oh,
not
yeah.
only the $1 million, but even accepting the ambassadorship, like under somebody so.
Well, the thing, part of it is if he even would have just kind of stayed in his own lane, he'd be not in as much trouble.
Yeah, but I think he was roped into it. I think he
Yeah.
was. I don't think it was
because he was the ambassador to the EU, has no connection to Ukraine at all.
But I think Giuliani roped him into it.
Yeah.
And by extension, Trump. Like, I don't think he had much of a choice. So I think that's about who you do business with, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it was interesting. I seem to recall listening to something where they were talking about him. He was the like you say, the EU ambassador, but they kind of added Ukraine to his.
yeah, they just said he's like, but the Ukraine's not in the EU, and they're like, no, thou shalt do this anyways.
This is an
and he
important
was like,
part of our EU.
I think we listened to the same episode of The Daily.
That could be.
It was a really good one. It was like a week ago, which feels like 18 years because we live in the Trump era. But go check it out if you haven't heard it. Like
And the last 2 days, The Daily has put out 2 episodes a day.
But one of them is only 8 minutes long and it's super good. I just listened to it on my way here. One of them, and it was
Yeah.
super awesome. What the fuck? He tweeted about her while she's testifying? Like, anyways, sorry. I got distracted.
well, I'm sure we can.
Sorry,
drop into that
we
in
can
a
talk
minute.
about that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think maybe a way to bring these tax laws into the 21st century would be to say, okay, if you're a nonprofit in some way that is benefiting society, then you get to have tax exemptions of whatever kind. And so, because that's really the only argument you can make is that a religious group might have some benefit. They shouldn't have a tax exemption because they're a religious group. There may be an opportunity for religious groups to apply for tax exemption because of good work that they do, whatever that may be, right? And then there may be, and I think that could, but people who work in a not-profit, they don't get to claim their houses. Like, that's not a thing.
No, that's right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, I think it should be secular in nature. The law should say that if you do good for society in a way that's not profitable but that is beneficial, then we want to incentivize that tax benefit. And if people do that out of them, like, I mean, one. I'm obviously not religious, but I do believe that sometimes religious people do good work because they think it's a good thing to do, and then they're motivated by the religion to do that. And if they want to do that, okay, fine. No, I'm fine with that. I mean, sometimes it gets shady, but
more and more I'm meeting people who have some sort of belief in religion or God or whatever, and they do good things, and they're activists, and they care about different aspects of society. And I mean, they aren't that evangelical, right-wing, conservative Christian that is taking away women's right to choose and everything. Like, they're doing good things. But yeah, they don't get to just, as random not-for-profits, get to like claim their houses. And
I guess what I object to is the underlying assumption that religious necessarily means beneficial for society, therefore tax break.
Yeah,
like that's what I have a problem with. Like, I think there should be you should have to demonstrate what you're doing that's good that gets you the tax break.
Yeah,
I think the biggest example of that is the Church of Scientology.
Right.
They totally backdoored into that as a religion, as a tax break.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that quote supposedly from L. Ron Hubbard is, to really make money, you have to start a religion. I don't know if that's been attributed to him. I'm paraphrasing, but I don't know if he's actually said that, but supposedly he did. And they fought tooth and nail to get their religion exemption. Although the States is the only one, I think they're the only one that acknowledges it.
I think so too.
And that's all it was. It's just a tax dodge.
It's not that religious people can't do good things. It's that religion isn't necessarily automatically good.
It shouldn't get you an automatic tax exemption. Like, I don't see why. I don't know. I just don't see why. Sorry. Me. I'm not getting a lot of arguments from you atheists, so it's just hard. It's hard to really have this.
No, damn it! They need to have their taxes exemptions.
This is kind of a hard conversation. I mean, it'd be interesting to have.
That's the thing. Is it's hard to. It's I mean, do they do good? Some churches and whatever do good things. Yes. But the other extremes makes it so hard to accept the argument because exactly you have all the televangelists and the prosperity preachers and yes, God wants me to have another plane.
Right.
You know, like it's just so
well, the other thing is
crass.
I mean, I guess I just feel like I've always, as an atheist, felt like some atheists get really up against the wall. Like, oh, well, we can't. I don't think religions do good. I don't think they are a force for good. Blah blah blah. Okay, but I actually think that's irrelevant in terms of my atheism because it's like, well, even if somebody's motivated to feed starving puppies, right, because of their religion, that doesn't mean that their beliefs are true. So like, and I don't like to. I just personally can't believe things that I don't think are true.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't matter if the person does good because they think whatever God telling them to do it. Like it's not
Yeah, like we can both enjoy helping puppies and have different motivations for it, and that's fine. And I'm not going to believe the thing that you believe.
Precisely. Yeah.
I think that's it for that.
Yeah. Churches, taxes. Yeah. Enough of that shit.
All right. The Canadian election results and Wexit. I was kind of expecting an automatic rant from you, Rene.
Well,
all you got is a sigh. Rene's checked out.
Well,
He's
because
like,
the
fuck this
problem
shit.
is
I'm just so tired of them.
I'm just so tired because like my cousin posted shit and I've seen so many other people posting about it. Okay. Is Trudeau perfect leader? Great guy? No, problematic. Voted for him because he's the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't. But this idea that it's like, oh, we didn't get the guy we wanted, so we're going to separate.
Yeah.
Is the stupidest fucking argument I've ever heard. Because that's all it is. That's all it is. It boils down to is we didn't get the guy we wanted. And once again, Alberta's bitching about not getting the price of oil that, you know.
They imagine they'll get.
Well, because they're taking. They're like record companies with the downloading. They look at all the oil is moving with their discount, and then they go, we should be getting the money without the discount. See, we're losing billions of dollars without the discount. It's like, which is partially unfair, but people perceive the oil from Canada as all being that from Fort Mac,
right?
Which is a lot of it is just the process. It's just what it is. It's a lot thicker. I have no idea of how they separate the oil, like light crude and the different.
Yeah, it's.
I don't understand it. Don't know it. I'm not even going to pretend. But I know the stuff from Fort Mac is in essence sludge.
Right. It takes a lot of processing to get it to where it's good.
And because it's so thick, because they have to add chemicals to it to be able to put it down the pipeline. Americans don't want our oil anyway because they got enough of their own. That's why they're buying it at a discount. That's my understanding of it.
Right.
Could I be wrong? Sure. I'm not in the oil industry. But it's just they're counting every discounted dollar as a dollar they would be getting, and then, you know, fucking Trudeau. And it's like, well, no. It's the end result of oil was at $160 a barrel, so everyone on the planet was drill baby drill, so they have too much.
Yeah.
Now they get to be picky and choosy where they get it. And the problem is our entire system is sent to send it down to the States, and they don't need it.
Yeah.
Because they went fracking crazy. But from stuff I've read is that's all starting to collapse.
I've been led to believe by other various sources that if we have another pipeline to, say, ship it out to the coast where it can be sent overseas, or if we have another pipeline down into the U.S., the amount of people are buying from us won't actually increase because the reason that they're buying it is because it's at a decreased price. Yeah. So
it's the exact same reason as why you had, for the longest time, you had in Vancouver, you had that huge filming boom because of our dollar was worth shit. So they'd all come up there.
Right.
Hollywood North and how many, like throughout the 90s and early 2000s, huge. Every sci-fi show was shot in Vancouver because the dollar was so low that it would just cost effective. It's a catch-22 of how that works. And the problem is what happened was a boom. And what exactly caused the boom? Once again, I don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't follow the oil that closely. But it was a cross between speculation, China was building crazy, huge projects. It all drove the price up. It went as I honestly thought it was going to. One way or the other, I thought it was going to pop.
Right.
And now
it had to.
It had to. And now we're in the rubble of a boom.
Yeah.
Which happened every 10 years. If you look at the chart, it happens every 10 years for a variety of reasons, but it's boom, boom.
There's a reason they can predict recessions, right?
Yeah. And it's just something that just drives me nuts because the logic seems to be is that, we pay so much in transfer payments to Quebec. And it's like, well, that's true, but I've seen some posts where they show the actual numbers and it's not as much as everyone thinks.
And it's not money coming directly out of the pocket of Alberta and going into the pocket of Quebec and Ontario. Like we all pay taxes and it goes into a pot and different areas get different amounts.
But once again, it's that case of they're counting money that they're not making. Because the last time this was a big thing was 1979, 1980 when Pierre Elliott Trudeau put in the National Energy Program.
Right.
Which what was happening was because oil prices were just going crazy because of this 1973 oil crisis when OPEC said, we're not shipping you oil because you supported Israel, so they were being a bunch of dicks. And then it went through the roof. And then it kind of settled down a little bit. And then the Iranian Revolution happened. And then that caused another big, huge spike. And it gets into really weird, from stuff I've read, gets into really weird things that I don't understand. I don't understand the logic of. But for some reason, the reason why out east they import all their oil from Saudi Arabia is because they've always thought it was cheaper than trying to get it from out west. For whatever reason. I don't know why. It was something I read. I didn't understand it. But that's what the process is.
Right.
And so it was so expensive because of all these spikes and whatever. Trudeau wanted to try to encourage, like not to have the East get screwed and maybe try to encourage some interprovincial. But of course, Alberta was, we're selling it at a discount. Like we're not getting, we want the world price. We want the world price. We want the world price.
Right.
Trudeau's a bastard. We want the world price. And then what happened? 1986, OPEC flooded the market and oil crashed to like $10 a barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world price isn't so good anymore.
Yeah. Suddenly the world price isn't so good anymore. Like, I don't know whether the National Energy Program was a good program, bad program. I don't know enough of it to argue one way or the other. But there was I'm guessing there was probably mechanisms in place to try to, because what he was trying to do was even out the spike, the peaks and valleys of it, the boom and bust. And then, of course, what's the first thing? And then I remember in a history class, the first thing on the table for NAFTA or free trade agreement was the price of oil.
Yeah.
Because the Americans got pissed off that they were
selling. They wanted a guaranteed price.
They were pissed off that they were trying to sell oil cheaper inter Canada than they were getting because Trudeau was like, no. If you're selling it on the world market, you get the world price. Just inter Canada, as far as I understand how that worked. But once again, and that's probably where all the anger towards Justin Trudeau is because we've had 40 years of everyone in Alberta and Saskatchewan, fucking Trudeau, fucking Trudeau, fucking Trudeau, fucking Trudeau.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I always thought, the conservative mindset kind of like they were kind of right about Justin Trudeau is that he did kind of grow up in a privileged lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely.
He doesn't really understand what it's like to work in labor for his life. Like he doesn't get this sort of lifestyle.
Andrew Scheer does
exactly.
Come on, they don't actually care about that.
The argument, that argument is bullshit because Andrew Scheer.
That's the problem, right? Like you can see it in the guy that isn't on your team, but you can't see it on the guy that is on your team.
Because Stephen Harper started as road worker and worked his way up to prime minister, right? Fuck off.
No, he got his degree in economics and went straight into the mailroom of the Reform Party. Fuck off.
Exactly. Yeah.
But, but that's just it. I've been seeing right after I should find the post. My cousin posted something about after 150 some years of Confederation, maybe this just isn't working for us. Blah. And it's like, you idiots. You guys, every post I've seen about Wexit, you assume that BC is going to join you. BC's why they're not building the
Yeah,
pipeline.
They're absolutely not going to join them. Plus, a lot of Alberta is treaty land. Like that's not.
Well, that's the
that's
other
not
problem.
Alberta's land.
That's a good point.
It doesn't
like,
belong to them.
Like I'm from Calgary, and there are parts of Southwest Calgary that are incredibly inconvenient to drive around because you have to go around this enormous treaty line. Like you just there is nothing. Yeah, it took them years to get an agreement to go through it, and with this highway that's going to be going through there. But other than that, like they're really it's amazing. It goes from like city to nothing, and there's all sorts of stuff all around it. But it's not easy to get from one side of it to the other.
But it was the exact same thing as that like Quebec had with when they were doing their separation thing. Is that the lot of the native land was like we're not you
can't just take it.
Yeah, you know what your size of your new country is going to be? About half the size of your province because this is all treaty land.
Well, arguably, I mean, it's not usable anyways in that sense. Like from Canada's perspective, I mean, it's not. So
I mean,
they don't lose anything. That's it. But I mean, the whole idea is stupid. Like I mean, because
the thing is with Quebec when separation was first, like the silent what's that they call themselves, the silent majority or whatever, or the silent revolution. Sorry,
you're thinking
that's Don
silent
Cherry's
majority.
thing.
That's Don. That's right. That's right.
I'm blurring something.
I don't want to talk about him at all.
Yeah,
at all. We're not allowed to talk about it at all.
No. But anyway, it was like the silent revolution. That's what they called themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that was started in the 60s because what happened was, from my understanding, there was kind of something there, was that most of the francophones in Quebec were rural and most of the government was run by, and a lot of the big businesses were run by Anglophones, right? They came in from Ontario and doing all this. So they had no real control in Quebec. There was something to be said about that. But by the time like the 90s rolled around and they did the second referendum, that argument was mute and stupid.
Right.
But now you still have those people because same thing as hating Trudeau. There's people grown up, how many generations now of we should separate, and it just becomes like this family taught thing, right? So
can I just say that as a man named Rene Doyon should not have such a god-awful French-Canadian accent.
That was going to be actually one of my stand-up comedy routines. I had a bit of a bit about having a very French name but being nothing French. I can't even fake a French accent.
No, it's really abysmal.
Yeah, it's a really bad Jean Chrétien impersonation.
It's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like it's god awful. I know, but that was going to be part of my routine. Was he's like, yeah, I got a very French name, but I'm not French at all.
Yeah.
Like if you just were to naively look at your name without knowing no, I mean you personally, if you were to get amnesia and somebody were to show you, this is your name, you're like, my name is Rene. Like you,
I've had that variation I've had every variation of the name. Yeah, and yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying you would give yourself that variation if you didn't know otherwise. I'm saying.
If that's the case, I'll have to go with my middle name, Cameron.
That's weird. Interesting. All right.
That's what happens when your father is Quebecois and your mom is from a very English family. You get a really weird mix. I have a lot of self-loathing.
Yeah.
The only thing I think you should be ashamed of, Rene, is your lousy French accent. That's the only thing I think you should have responsibility for personally.
I have to watch more Monty Python.
Oh God,
that might not be the best place for
it's a different kind of French accent. A and B, also terrible.
Yeah. More Pepe Le Pew.
Oh Lord,
that was also going to be part of the routine. But anyway,
so what did you guys think of the election results?
Honestly, I kind of played out sort of the way I thought it was going to be. I had a vague idea that it was either going to be a conservative minority or a liberal minority.
Right.
The fact that it was a liberal minority, I was not totally surprised, but just a smidgen surprised. But the fact that they got totally shut out in Alberta and Saskatchewan didn't shock me one bit.
That did shock me, actually, because that's what it was like when I was growing up. It was like that, and then it seems in recent years that there's been more progressiveness there. More people are moving there that aren't from there, and I was thinking that And I don't just mean people from other countries. I mean like people from other parts of this country moving to Alberta and Saskatchewan, and I think maybe making it a bit more progressive, and people just becoming more progressive just in general. Like certainly my parents are more progressive now than they used to be, and they've been living in Calgary for 40 years. But I would say that like, yeah, I was surprised, and I was really shocked that the MP for my riding, Ralph Goodale, lost his seat.
I'll admit I was a little surprised at
that. A guy I've actually met, because he anyways, I won't say anyways, but and who I'm not loving as my representative in Parliament right now. So that's actually what was really shocking to me, is my riding in particular. I was really disappointed in the result, and I felt like it was a really lousy way for Ralph Goodale to go out, given how long he's been.
Yeah, the years he's put into.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes for politicians, I guess. But like, but I was also very dismayed to like. Usually, there was always like one Liberal riding in Edmonton or something, you know, or an NDP riding here in Saskatchewan. But there was nothing, and it was.
They managed to stoke the Trudeau thing pretty hard.
I guess because you guys are often complaining on your Facebooks or whatever that everyone you know is conservative, and you don't feel like you're just kind of like, you know, this progressive in this conservative bubble. I don't really feel that way. Okay. People maybe just don't talk politics much at my work, first of all, and then like all my friends like I surround myself with people. I mean, I make my own bubble, I guess, but but I tend to surround myself with people who have similar ideas. Not always, but somewhat. So it's really only a select few. Often it's people I really love, and then they'll post some like anti-Trudeau thing or you know, a pro Don Cherry thing. I won't say any more about it, but I was like, really? Like Tiffany? Like, she's a lesbian. I'm so confused. Like, and it's interesting. Like, sorry, Tiff. But she doesn't listen. But when it's just so, like, to me, I kind of took me off guard. Like the Trump election, I was just like,
right.
Oh, I didn't realize I was surrounded by people who thought this way. Interesting.
Well, I find it's weird. Like at work, a lot of the people I work with are liberal-ish.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot of people I know from hometown are very like, just ugh. And it's you know what, that's fine if you don't like Trudeau. There's a lot of criticisms, that's fine. But there just seems to be this wall of
Okay. But like my progressive friend, I mean, to be fair, I mean, most people, the people I grew up with in Calgary are now professionals and teachers. I mean, it's not surprising that they're progressive people. That's just the people, you know, that's who I grew up with. My family's always pretty progressive. And then I spent years in academia. And I mean, the more educated you are, the more progressive you tend to be. Yep. So I mean, but I'll see political cartoons from my progressive friends, and it'll say, it'll be, you know, some skewering comic or, you know, a very, very cleverly worded, you know, it'll be like a really, you know, intricate article, really goes into depth, or they'll be posting something. This is opposite of what I think, but I really think it's important to think about the conservative side. But that's what I get there. Oh, okay. And then the conservative stuff is lowbrow. Yeah. Like, I mean, it is like, I again, we won't get into it, but I mean, I won't say the details, but like people would post things about Don Cherry, and you'd read it and you'd be like, and they'd be like, so you should sign this petition in support of blah, 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 because this happened. I'm like, but that's literally not what happened. And you can literally watch it. Like, you don't have to like take this random surveys report word for it. You can just terrible arguments that are very much playing on people's emotions. Just people, I don't know, I just get the sense of the people they're trying to appeal to aren't people who will think rationally about the argument that's being made. They won't actually question. They'll just be like, oh, this is true, and my aunt posted it, therefore I'll sign it. And I'm just like, but it's not even, you know, like, oh, I got a lot of how come Trudeau's allowed to be racist, but Don Cherry's not allowed to be racist. And it's like, well, first of all, neither one's allowed to be racist. Both of them got skewered for this, but one of them apologized immediately when it came out. So
and also
I do
it
think
happened
there's
20 years ago. And if Don Cherry had said the exact same thing, and he probably did if we looked in the archives 20 years ago.
Every week.
He's been saying stupid shit for 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But when Trudeau was called out, he apologized, which to me means something. Maybe it's still not forgivable. I don't know. But in any event, he did. And I think that's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's where it all plays into the Wexit and the, you know, whatever. It's because out here, if you're conservative, they were just so certain that Trudeau was just the devil and he was going to get defeated, and everyone was, you know, on. That's why we got to separate. Even though none of them have the first freaking clue, whether it's the consequences of any of it.
Oh, and they're always worried
Yeah.
about
You know.
finances and the economy. That's ostensibly what they're so worried about. I think it'd be pretty fucking shitty for the Western economies to separate from a powerful,
Yeah, that's
rich
right.
country like Canada. Like,
Yeah.
that is not
It
a
would
good
be
idea.
ridiculous.
It would be abysmal. And it's funny that they would call it Wexit. Given Westgate, whatever. Given how awfully Brexit's going. Brexit is really, truly a disaster. And I'm sure every politician there would just wish is that the answer had been
Yeah.
stayed.
Well,
Like,
that's just
I
it, is
mean,
because
like,
the consequence, because
it's a disaster.
it's the same thing. It's the appeal of the emotion, right? Because that's just it. Brexit was all about how much money they were given to the EU and they were forced to take in all these immigrants. Wexit is this.
It's all about how much money is sent out east, and we're forced to take all these immigrants.
Well, yeah, and yeah,
who are driving the economy. I mean,
Well, yeah,
there was a weird,
exactly,
anyway,
yeah.
Can I just say I would like each of you to give me a gold star because I didn't engage with anybody. Like no family members, not my boyfriend's best friend, not coworkers. Nobody didn't point out anyone's stupidity. Just scrolled on by. So can I maybe is that good?
yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like on Facebook, it's not like if I could sit down with them at a bar and we could, agree that we're going to chat about this and like, hey, let's just, and it's cool. And if we could keep it and have like, body language and eye contact, then maybe it would be a discussion. But to me, I was like, but stop, don't type back. Like,
I actually did that not long before the election. I went out for drinks with listener to the show, Brandon. And,
I know him.
And we went for drinks with his friends who are conservatives.
Because he's at the farm bank.
Oh, is he?
He works at, no, not a bank, a farm insurance thing?
No.
Different Brandon.
Different Brandon. Brandon.
I don't need to say his last name.
Yeah, different Brandon. But we went and we talked to we were drinking with his conservative friends. And the longer the conversation went on, the more I had to roll it back. Like, okay, so we agree that Trudeau sucks in various ways, but you think he's going to take your guns away? Okay, so where did you get that information? How do you learn things? Like I have
memes.
to keep,
It's all memes.
yeah, I have to keep rolling it back. Okay, do you understand what epistemology is?
Yeah. Well, it's just like exactly
How do you learn gain knowledge?
The last week of the election was like, yeah. I mean, I don't remember the guns thing, but I'm sure that was out there. But I know he was going to legalize all drugs, and
Yep,
and there was
yep, there was
I
that.
can't remember. There was a couple other things where we're just like, where the fuck did you get that from? Like. What?
There's got to be propaganda out there somewhere that's saying this stuff, right?
Well, there was an article, and I'll admit I didn't really read it, but I did see it, and they're saying that there was definitely some Russian interference.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Like, it's not to the same extent.
No, not Russian.
Not Russians. Yeah, no.
You know what? I heard about this on. Do you guys watch listen to Front Burner? It's a CBC podcast.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And I remember them talking about that, and I forgot about fucking Russians and the Canadian shit.
Because that's just it. It's like, I mean, it plays right in the play, but all they had to do is just throw out a couple bullshit memes, and people just fucking.
They already
ran
got
with
their
it.
factory of trolls. I mean,
Fuck yeah.
they're ready.
Yeah,
Can I just never mind?
It's just that, like, that's just it. It's something that just boggles my mind. You people do understand how democracies work, right? Like, okay, your guy didn't win. That doesn't mean you get to take your ball and go home.
right.
Like, and the short-term memory is mind-boggling because let's remember, Harper had 2 minority governments. He did some shady shit himself, and he finally had 1 majority government.
Right.
That's when the wheels really went off the train because all the crazies in his party started to, we're in power, and but that's just it. Is he was still a minority government for 2 governments. Trudeau went from a majority to a minority. He still paid for his mistakes somewhat, but that doesn't mean. I mean, the instant he got elected, there was how many people? I didn't vote for him. Not my prime minister.
Well, yeah,
That's fine. You
suddenly-
voted for who you voted for, but he didn't win.
suddenly
okay?
the popular vote became a thing in Canada, that's never been a thing in Canada.
It's not how our
We
system
don't
works.
vote for our one leader. Like,
Well, that's just it. Is they won the popular vote by what, 2 percentage points? So they had like something like 34% as opposed to 32%. Okay, so the math there now is, so you have 34% of the vote.
right.
that's another, 60% of people that didn't vote for your guy. Like, I mean,
Yeah, like 2/3 of the country didn't want Andrew Scheer as the leader or the Conservative Party to rule.
yeah.
Do you guys recall how in the last election, when proportional representation was so much and voter reform was so big on everyone's mind, that the Conservatives were the only ones who didn't push to have a system of voting that would have a government to be proportional to the popular vote? They're the only ones.
Yeah.
And in fact, if they did get that, they would still be a minority, would they not? And, and certainly the other parties could form a coalition, and they would be always out.
Yep.
No, like if they are only getting 1/3 of the votes, it's actually not good.
And what happened last time when there was a Conservative in power and they looked like they were going to lose the vote? Oh, right. He prorogued Parliament so they wouldn't have to face the vote.
Oh, I remember that. He prorogued twice. I didn't know about proroguing until...
I didn't realize he did it twice. I thought he just did it once.
No, he did it twice.
It
sounds delicious.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's something stuffed with like a dough stuffed with like potatoes and cheese and bacon.
Oh, that would be good.
But pierogi is bad.
It sounds like
pierogi is not good like pierogies.
Yeah, it sounds like pierogies, but we don't like pierogies because they're immigrants. So
don't say that shit. I think literally people are breaking down the door right now. Right? We are in Saskatchewan, and you just said you don't like pierogies. Oh,
yeah, I know, but I was just kind of trying to show
the Ukrainians
the irony.
don't think of their ancestors as immigrants.
That's true.
Yeah, conveniently.
Yeah,
right.
Conveniently, everybody else is an immigrant.
Yeah. Oh, these damn immigrants. Oh, really? Whatever, something ski.
Yeah. You were born here, eh? So that makes your whole family part of the Canadian. Anyway.
It's something that I see posts every once in a while that just drives me batshit because I feel like I want to engage, but I also know I don't want to be dragged down that rabbit hole because it's pointless. Because I mean, I showed you that screen cap of what happened to my friend.
Yeah.
What happened to your friend? I want to know.
Oh,
Summarize
we should
it.
almost invite him on the podcast. Right
Invite your friend on the podcast, but for now, tell us. I want to know about the train wreck.
Long story short, I'll try not to bring in name just because it might cause problems. Basically, he's a very liberal guy. Works not oil field, but
Adjacent,
that kind of. But he's very liberal and very outspoken. And I guess this guy sent him a Facebook message. It's like, oh, you should really shut up about not building pipelines and doing this because otherwise, to sum up, it
was threatening.
Yeah. I think it's some
worthy of calling the police.
Yeah,
kind of threatening.
Like sort of. It was kind of like along the lines of you'll be happy when we all have to go to one shift and I'll buy your fancy sports car for pennies on the dollar, buy you a rope to hang yourself while I fuck your wife. Basically is what the post was. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah. And somehow disagreeing with racism makes us the bad guys.
Yeah.
Did it have the guy, like the person who wrote the message, did he know him? Did he have his name attached?
No, there was consequences. There was consequences, but it was still a case of,
holy shit.
Did some fuck actually...
In what universe would that be an okay thing to send to someone?
Yeah, like that's right. Yeah, pretty brutal.
He's trolling wrong, though. He's got to do this anonymously. He should learn. Most trolls don't do it with their own name.
You can read it. We won't read it on the podcast, but... But yeah, at any rate, so there is... And I can kind of understand the anger and the whatever, because it's people's livelihoods. I mean, my job is slow because the economy sucks ass. I understand that, but it just have a little bit more understanding of how the world works.
Yeah. Things are tough all over. Like, it's not just here, right? Like,
no. I mean...
Everybody suffers. And, I mean, we all know where I stand on this. So I'm not...
Yeah, and I totally agree with some of your posts on that. But that's
Cory stands with capitalism.
Yeah, but,
just to be clear.
Yeah, but that's just it. It's like this whole oil thing is the end result of a boom. It went.
Yeah.
We have other problems because if I was going to blame anyone, I blame Trump and because his stupid trade wars with China is affecting the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because the trade war is not based on anything other than stupidity.
You know what I would blame? I would blame years of politicians pandering to oil companies and not focusing on green sources of energy.
Yeah.
So we don't have these fucking issues with oil anymore.
Yeah, we never diversified our economies when we actually had the opportunities. We just threw all our eggs in the oil basket. And
There's tons of blame to go around, but the general short-sighted policies of politicians in years gone by of focusing on oil and not reading the writing on the wall that shit's gotta get going the way of the dinosaur, so to speak. I mean, that's the problem, right? Like it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
The thing is we're not turning the taps off tomorrow.
Well, no, but
So I know,
we
but it's
should
a
be.
process. You have to
Yeah.
have long-term thinking. You have to invest in clean energy.
But
You
this
have to-
idea that he's like, oh, we got, Trudeau's trying to destroy the oil industry. If he's in trouble because what they wanted, and what I'm meaning they is the oil industry, is to rubber stamp all the pipelines they put in front of him. He didn't do that. But now he's in trouble because he did approve a couple pipelines. Well, this is called practical.
Yeah.
Because pipelines are the better way to transport rather than by rail. He's still a business. We still need it. We still use it. But it's not the panacea. It's not going to fix everything. It's because they drilled and just too much oil. And
Is there a way? Do you guys not see this? It's kind of like a bigger scale Blockbuster video thing. You know what I mean? Like it's just Blockbuster video is only lasted so long. Like it overlapped a little bit with Netflix, but not long. You know what I mean? Like I mean, as soon as we get better sources of energy that are economically viable, it's just
but
I mean, it's just reality.
That is the thing. Is I'm not against it per se, but I'm like, why not keep looking at? I mean, we had all these people throwing up solar panels, which were great, and then they fucked up the program.
Yeah.
Or let's think about what we're going to do with people. How are we going to retrain people to do something? Or how are we going to create a society where, your ability to feed yourself and your family isn't dependent on the oil industry being prominent in the world? We have to think about...
That's just it. Is like, I mean, Alberta's been notorious for its 40 years of boom and bust, and they don't seem to learn anything from it because they have a boogeyman in Ottawa that they can blame it on.
Well, yeah, that makes it easier.
I honestly don't get Alberta because I'm telling you, I'm from Calgary. It is weird for people like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Calgary. And they're like, weird. Because, where's your parents from? Oh, they're from Montreal. Nobody is from Calgary. Okay. Nobody. It's just not maybe one generation back. I mean, I was born there, but my parents certainly weren't. So I don't understand. I guess, is it a selection effect? People who move to Calgary are like, oh, I don't want taxes. I don't want, I want, government that is only focused on the industry that I want to work in. I don't know what money. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, this isn't just like generations of people from Alberta because that's the population has grown way and the immigrant population is huge. So what I don't know. I'm just a little confused as to how does everyone get to Alberta and then become contaminated with their political ideas. I don't understand. Is it a money thing, you think?
I think it is because that's the last massive bust was 86. So you had how many generation it crashed, it started to get better, and then all of a sudden the boom hit and everyone's got money, and they want to keep that, so that's why their policies will go that way.
Right.
Yeah. But people might not remember that.
If you think about that, Saskatchewan forever was Alberta's socialist little cousin. Right?
Yeah,
exactly.
that's right.
It's weird seeing them teaming up this way. It's odd.
My pet theory on that is because of the boom, it brought all the people from Alberta, which then they're just like, no, that union stuff, that socialist stuff, no, that's terrible. We got to go this way. And then everyone's now...
Or a lot of
Saskatchewan finally had money, and that was because of we went that because of
Or a lot of you
Brad
folks
Wall.
from Saskatchewan moved to Alberta during booms and then move back when it's not so boom. But you bring the contamination of the political culture with you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a weird...
Yeah. I mean, I have no evidence, no numbers to prove any of this.
But pontificating.
Yeah, just speculating. But it's still it is weird because even within our lifetimes, Saskatchewan was an NDP stronghold. This was not federally, but at least our provincial government was NDP for 12 years? Even longer than that.
Longer than that. And the reason being is because they had to clean up the last conservative government mess.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But by the time Brad Wall came along, everybody was blaming the troubles on the NDPs.
Well, that's mind you, because that's just it. Is we always governments in Saskatchewan, or I think governments general, they always get too much praise when it's good and too much shit when it's bad.
Yeah.
So I remember when Stephen Harper was ousted, I remember reading a newspaper article. It was something like, Stephen Harper didn't read the writing on the wall. Most prime ministers, like world leaders, CEOs, like people at the high level tend to have a shelf life of about 10 years.
Right.
They don't, like, people don't tend, like, that's just about how long they last. So, I mean, Trudeau's not going to last forever, and it's going to swing somewhere else. But I mean, if things were going badly in Saskatchewan after 12 or plus years of NDP rule, fair enough to blame that government, I think. I mean, I don't personally think the answer is more a ridiculously conservative government.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, there is a shelf life for these things, and people don't have a lot of stomach for it.
I mean, I think what happened with the NDP is, I mean, I made this joke to someone, is the NDP came in, had to clean up the conservative mess, because I've read some stuff, like, I mean, I was too young to know this, but we were like a month away from bankruptcy and becoming a territory, because...
Do you get demoted to territory if you don't pay your bills? Is that how it works in
Yeah,
Canada?
eventually.
Really?
Yeah. If you get too low.
Okay, what happens if you're a territory? Like, what happens? Like, you don't have health care? Or like, what?
Then a lot of the decisions that happen at the provincial level are actually handled by a federal representative. I'm not 100% sure on the mechanics of
Yahoos
it.
in the ledge here making decisions. I don't know.
Yeah, there might be a upside to this, but
I almost got demoted. I like that. It sounds like less
but-
responsibility.
It does.
But so at any rate, so you had Roy Romano as we had to make these choices, the hard stepdad, right? And then all of a sudden Brad Wall came in, and he was the
Don't ever say that again.
yeah. And, well,
that's about
Just
yeah,
never
again. Brad Wall came in as the fun weekend dad. That's what happened. Because all of a sudden
yes.
he came in.
Yeah.
He came in just as the population was swinging back in, and the money came in. It's like, hey. And then now we're like,
people mistook correlation with causation.
yeah. And and that's just it. It's because you talk to anyone, and I've had this argument. It's like, well, Brad made all these jobs. No, he didn't. The jobs came because the money was coming in, because the oil was starting to spike in 07.
Yeah.
I mean, if politicians had that kind of power to improve the economy that way, then they would always do that, because they want to always be in power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But isn't it also convenient that right after Brad Wall got elected, when oil was and everything was going to shit, suddenly he decided to step away from the party.
Yeah, he went and got a job in Alberta with an oil company.
Yeah.
Go figure.
So because that's what, and then that way it gave them, and then suddenly they were going to balance the books in 3 years, just in time for the re-election.
Yeah.
Convenient, right? Like, it's just like, you always hear about how great Harper was. It's like, Harper had one balanced budget in the time he was in power? Maybe two, and the last one was...
Harper was not great. I remember.
Yeah. And I think the last one, he claimed to have a balanced budget, but as soon as the Liberals came in and really looked at the books and went, no, they weren't.
This was totally fabricated.
They cooked the books.
Yeah.
He also destroyed, or as well as he could, the national research infrastructure and community that existed in Canada. Like, he literally burning books in libraries. And
destroying actual data. And
well, because he ran it like he was
what scientists were able to say, like, terrible.
Well, yeah, because he ran it like he was the CEO of Canada. I don't like your information because it counters what I want to send out. So we're going to cut your funding.
Yeah.
That's not how science works. What is it that Neil deGrasse Tyson always says? It doesn't matter if you believe that the science is correct; it's still true.
Yeah,
Something to that effect.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
that's also
all scientists say that. Sorry.
it's like
not just the one.
It's like I was saying to Cory, I think it was last time, where the irony of all this with the Facebook and everything is the same people that'll post memes about how proud they are that, they make $100,000 as a driller with just a high school education are the exact same ones that are then showing all the memes about climate change is bullshit because climate is controlled by the sun. And okay, you barely passed grade 12, but suddenly you're a fucking climate scientist. How does this work?
You could believe all these scientists, or you can believe Dave, who drives a truck.
yeah. Whose profile pic is him holding a fish.
Yeah.
This is what I mean about these kind of conservative, simplistic memes that are so easy to poke holes in. So I don't understand how people can be taken in by them, because it's so obvious. Like, yes, the sun is the ultimate source of energy on Earth, but there is an interplay between the situation on Earth and the sun, and the rays from the sun are captured and kept on the Earth.
Way too complicated already.
If it's too complicated, then you can't say that you're able to disprove climate science.
no.
Right?
Most
You
of
have-
these are the same people that also will go, InfoWars, damn straight.
Yeah.
Isn't he off the air now? Isn't he like?
He's got it. I have no
You can
idea.
still get his stuff on his website,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
still has millions of people who go to
Yeah.
it every day. But
But it's the same shit cycle that has fed all the crap about
Is the shit cycle like the water cycle or the
similar.
cycle of life?
No, it's somehow different. It's somehow
Is it
different.
like diarrhea?
it's somehow worse. It's
somehow-
much worse.
Constipation.
I have a cartoon at home that's probably how it actually works, but I'm not going to describe it right now.
I think is the shit cycle like the water cycle is now the title of the episode.
Yeah.
If that doesn't get downloads, what else?
But that's just it. It's like all the stuff that gets posted that just gets cycled around, like everything from, Trudeau's promoting pedophilia and, he's bringing in Sharia law and all that shit. They all buy that.
No, they don't.
A lot of them do.
A lot of them do.
Okay, if somebody, I don't agree, say, with the politics of Andrew Scheer, but if somebody put that in my Facebook feed, I'd be like, that's really stupid.
That's
I'm
ridiculous.
considering at least unfollowing this person, possibly unfriending,
Yeah.
because I don't need this. Like, this is what would happen. This is how I get in my bubble.
Yeah, because the problem is
Yeah.
we kind of go, I don't like that guy. But whereas the other ones, they don't care.
Yeah.
No, I think I don't like that guy, and then I listen to incisive commentary for hours on end from like, like I'm really into like
Experts on
like has
political
anyone
theory.
been listening to Preet Bharara? Oh my god, isn't it like he's a former U.S. attorney and he just goes into all this like legal crazy detail of the impeachment hearing. I'm like, I just don't like Donald Trump, and he is really explaining in incredible detail why he's so off, like logically and reasonably. This is why it sucks. Like, yes, like that's what I need.
I've heard arguments literally is Trudeau sucks because I don't like the way he talks. He has too many ums and ahs in how he talks.
Yeah.
Yes, because Andrew Scheer, that bastard, when he speaks, I will jump off a cliff for him.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, I actually really have a pet peeve against when people on, quote, my side, like, who are politically aligned with me, criticize somebody I disagree with politically on stupid shit. Like, that really, like, for
Yeah.
example, like, I watched a lot of Seth Meyers, who's hilarious, but he spends like 95% of his time criticizing Trump, but he has like a bunch of running jokes that are, yes, Trump is ridiculous, yes, it's stupid, but like, quit making fun of how he says origins. He can't say origins, he says
Yes.
oranges.
Yeah.
So like, okay,
It was funny once.
it is funny, and it's but it's also not relevant. Like,
Yeah.
you know what, I would, if Obama said oranges instead of origins, it wouldn't actually, it's not relevant.
Obama
And
had
that's-
his own weird...
Right. And that's not
weird
why. And you know what? And I'm
phrasings
sure
too,
Seth
so.
Meyers made fun of Obama when Obama was, because that's his job. But I'm just saying, like, that's not a legitimate reason to criticize
Right.
somebody. Like, it's like he had the toilet paper on his foot. Like, they bring that one up over, okay, yeah. Hilarious, objectively true. However, like, it doesn't make him a bad president. I'm sure I've walked around with toilet paper, sticking out of my
And that's
like,
funny also.
pants. Yeah, right. And it I guess it does. It should disqualify me for public office, but it really is. It's. I hate when people make fun of people I disagree, because to me it's just fueling the other side. Like, look how unjust the progressives are being in their criticism. Like, look what I'm just like. No, we have to be scrupulous.
Yeah,
that's how I feel. Rant
I
over.
don't know.
Sorry.
I saw it happen in real time where two people on my Facebook feed were arguing about Andrew Scheer.
Oh.
And it was morbidly funny to watch, but one side was saying how he's gonna, the abortion debate with Andrew Scheer, and I was kind of like, and I called her to task on it. I'm like, his official opinion on it is he's anti-abortion, but he's not going to bring it up. So it's a moot point. I don't know why you're harping on it. Like, I don't like Scheer, but
Right.
it was kind of funny to watch because that was the way she was going at it. He's going to bring in abortion and whatever else. I mean, the caveat to that is he also said he wouldn't stop private members' bill if they brought it.
Yes.
That's
and also one could worry that he would change his mind, right? Like, and that would be a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the legitimate argument. But it was just kind of funny to watch because there's just, he's got to bring back abortion. He's like, well, technically, he says he wouldn't. So, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of defended Andrew Scheer, and I didn't want to.
Did you have a shower after?
Yeah. Bleach really burns the ice.
Hi, I'm Tom from the Cognitive Dissonance Podcast.
And I'm No Illusions from the Scathing Atheist. Hey, Tom, do you know what month it is?
I don't do a lot of math, Noah.
Not math, it's Vulgarity for Charity. Every year, we get together to raise money for our favorite charity, Modest Needs.
Modest Needs uses smart fundraising to help people who are ineligible for other kinds of support stay on their feet.
But it's not just doing good, it's also a chance to be bad. Head on over to modestneeds.org, donate $50 or more, and forward the receipt along with who you want us to roast to vulgarityforcharity@gmail.com, and we'll deliver a scorching insult on an upcoming episode of Scathing Atheist or Cognitive Dissonance.
But that's not all. This year, an anonymous donor at Modest Needs will match all our donations up to $100,000, so what you give counts more something. I don't really know how that
It's double. It's your donation counts
okay.
double, Tom. One more time, that's modestneeds.org, and send who you want roasted to Vulgarity for Charity, that's the word, not the number, at gmail.com.
Vulgarity for Charity. Give us your money.
It's being bad never felt so good.
I think it's both.
Okay, and we are back, I believe. Yes, we are. So I guess we talked about Canadian stuff for quite a long time, so we can maybe cover a little bit of American stuff. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, Stephen Miller, who works in the White House, sent some emails to Breitbart, and he's pretty clearly a white nationalist.
Problem is, I watched that Our Cartoon President.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I every time I hear
this is
Stephen,
not news.
I hear Stephen Miller and I just think of that cartoon version of him, and it's probably the cartoon version is probably nicer than the real one.
Yeah, it seems like it. And the cartoon version was pretty awful.
Yeah, he's like this weird masochist that is like, that no one wants to deal with, no one wants to talk to. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, Stephen Miller's had his own family has denounced him, saying you're a piece of shit because our own family are immigrants.
Right. How can he be anti-immigrant when his family is?
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing that happens.
How can he be
here,
such
or in the U.S. and here,
white nationalist when most white nationalists are very anti-Semitic? And
he's Jewish.
Jewish himself.
Yeah. I guess this really wasn't a surprise to a lot of people.
No.
It's just
least shocking thing ever.
Here's the receipts. Here's the proof.
Yeah.
I feel like Samantha Bee did a piece on him, I think a while ago now, but that was really,
Yeah.
I mean, said the same thing. I say again, not shocking. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what else.
Yeah,
to
there's
say.
not a whole lot to add to that because it's just like he's a racist sack of crap. And
Yep.
yep.
We knew that. He shouldn't be in the White House.
Yeah. No.
Well, there's a lot of people who shouldn't be in the White House.
Yes, there is.
One person in particular.
He was like one of the head speechwriters, and he's the one that is all the really worst stuff that comes out of Trump's mouth, like the American carnage and, the American dream is dead. That's all Stephen Miller, I believe.
Yeah, it
I
wouldn't
could be wrong,
surprise me.
but I believe that was him.
Didn't he just get engaged or something? And all the talk shows that were joking about how, like, I don't know, just making jokes about how horrible it'd be to be engaged to such a person. I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
It's a fair observation. Yeah. Would be pretty awful.
Cory, would you get engaged to Stephen Miller?
I would not.
Really?
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Is it shocking?
Very shocking. Yeah. Given your feelings on marriage, it is shocking.
It is shocking.
I know you always dreamed of being a bride.
Yeah, maybe. Not Stephen Miller's, though. All right.
You took that too well.
All right. So there's sort of an impeachment going on.
Oh my God.
Of some kind.
I'm so obsessed with it. Like I listen to the New York Times, like the Daily, and they're just like, we know that everyone's really sick of this. No, I'm not fucking sick of it. I roll in it like a pig in shit. Like I'm so fucking happy. I just love it. I love do you
listen to BuzzFeed's Impeachment Today?
I don't.
It's usually about 20 minutes.
BuzzFeed kind of...
It's a solid show.
Is it?
Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try it. I know I do the Daily, and then I actually started paying for Preet Bharara's paid podcast. He has a free podcast and a paid one where he does really in-depth analysis with another former U.S. attorney. Oh my God, it's so good. It just, So
what do you think? Is he actually going to get impeached, like for real? Or
I think he'll get. So right now, to be clear, they actually haven't impeached him. They're doing an impeachment inquiry, and my boyfriend Preet Bharara keeps saying,
I'm glad you're saying Preet Bharara and not Sam Harris. Now.
Sam has been pretty quiet about the impeachment. It's kind of disappointing. I have to talk to him because he's also my boyfriend. Anyways,
damn it! I was hoping Preet.
I have multiple boyfriends. Jeez,
it's all about Preet now. Come on,
I love Preet so much. Maybe I should say like my fiance. My fiance Preet. I can bring Preet up to high. He's married with like three grown children, but anyways, or teenage children. Preet says that. What was I saying? Oh, it's all gone now. Fuck. I am the worst person on this. But will he get impeached? Yeah. So, I mean, his argument is that the Republicans make criticisms and the Democrats have just been knocking them down one by one. For example, they were saying, there's been no vote in the House. There's been no vote in the House. Been no vote in the House. Well, then they had a vote in the House.
Right.
There's been no public inquiry. Oh, well, now we have a public inquiry. So, I mean, it's just, when Bill Taylor testified the other day about something his aide told him, that's secondhand information. That's hearsay, not admissible. Well, they're going to depose the aide. So like it just goes on and on. Like there's and then the stuff that some of the stuff Republicans have been saying is blatantly they criticize that everything's secondhand information, and yet they won't let anyone with firsthand information testify. So like it's just. Yeah. Anyway, so you have these impeachment inquiries going on right now. I mean, everything I'm seeing and hearing is that the Democrats are looking to this expediently, and I mean, I don't see how they don't bring articles of impeachment, which that's the actual. So that means he's being impeached, and then once the articles are there, they go to the Senate. And then an impeachment trial takes place. Will Donald Trump be convicted of impeachment? That I think is much less clear. Yeah. I think given how much the Republicans are digging their heels in,
Lindsey Graham actually says he won't listen to the he won't read the transcripts and he won't listen to the testimony.
But the thing is that I was about to say the American people aren't stupid. Well, I mean, some maybe, some may not be. Of course, many aren't.
Although it's been turning to impeachment and
that's the thing. Public sentiment is getting more and more on board with impeachment, and I think a lot of Americans, even people who voted for Trump, as far as I'm seeing, are having a lot of questions about this. And I don't see how you just put this sweep this under the rug. I mean, with the Mueller thing, Mueller found evidence for obstruction of justice, but it was so effing complicated. And it was, a 400 and something odd page report, and Mueller refused to read from the report, and he was very blah, blah, blah. And I think, he intended for, the House of Reps to do the dirty work and bring impeachment based on what he said, but he didn't want to at all wade into an appeal. It just wasn't palatable enough. It wasn't soundbiteable enough. But this situation is a lot more clear. Trump withheld money that Congress said that the Ukrainians would get and were entitled to for his own political gain. I mean, it's so simple. The transcript of the call is pretty the near whatever the
Trump released that,
which he released, which was I just found absolutely.
Because it was a perfect call.
I think it actually goes to show the actual delusion in the White House, both with Trump and the people around him, to think that would be okay to release that. There's just in no universe, if you were trying to protect Trump, would you ever allow that to be released? And even Trump is deluded. Somehow you'd have to throw yourself in front of a train. Whatever you got to do, do not let that be. And they did. And so it's truly. It's mind-boggling. So I do believe, I think articles of impeachment are probably inevitable. Which articles is interesting. For example, today, Adam Schiff they were who was testifying, the former ambassador to the Ukraine, whose name is escaping me. Anyway, so she was fired in May by Trump, apparently after a smear campaign by Rudy Giuliani and pressured her, Trump to release her. And so Trump was actually tweeting while she was testifying, like multiple tweets about how awful she was and how she caused problems when she was in Somalia, but like as if she would. Anyways, so she didn't realize this because she's testifying. So Adam Schiff interrupts the prosecutor. So they've actually gotten a lawyer from the Republican side and a lawyer from the Democratic side to ask questions, which is much more effective in this public hearing setting because you don't get these politicians pontificating.
Right,
that was part of the rule that the Democrats put in place. So it's beautiful because only people who can talk is Adam Schiff, the head of the committee, and then his Republican counterpart, and then the lawyers that they've hired, staff, which is doing so much of a better job questioning. Anyways, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but Schiff actually interrupted the lawyer mid questioning and said, actually, hang on. President Trump's actually tweeting about you, witness, right now as we talk, and he's saying all these dreadful things about you. And he reads them to her and asks her how she feels about that. And she says that this is very intimidating. And Schiff says, well, we don't look favorably upon intimidating witnesses. And that is also an impeachable offense. So now there's speculation. Will there be another article of impeachment? Will that also be
adding it to the pile?
Anyways, but so it's just, this is just today's developments. It's on my mind, but yeah,
it's
so
like he just can't stop doing crimes.
But I do feel like the senators, I mean, they need a 2/3 in order to actually remove him from office. So he will be impeached, but whether he gets convicted or not is another question.
That one is
that's never happened in the history of the United States, that somebody actually gets removed from office through impeachment because you need the 2/3. But on the other hand, I think some Republican senators are going to have a hard time justifying this to their. I mean, it depends on what it really depends on what it's a political process. It's going to depend what the American people, if they show up at town halls and say, hey, look, we're conservative, not riding, what do they call them, district or state or whatever, and say, but this is unacceptable behavior. If the public sentiment gets away from Trump, then I think then it can happen. But it's really going to depend on the public and what kind of pressure they put on Republican senators from Republican states. I think that's the only way that it can. So I guess I'm feeling like probably he won't actually be removed from office, but I think certainly he'll be impeached.
Because I think the biggest problem is that, well, not the biggest problem, but one of the things is Donald Trump, for all of his money, even though he doesn't have as much as he claims, he really is just, if his dad hadn't been such a successful and rich man, Donald Trump would be just another thug selling stolen cigarettes out of the trunk of a car.
Yeah.
Maybe. He's such a
more likely he'd be buried in that trunk of the car because he's stupid.
But he's such a narcissist, and he's so unscrupulous and ruthless. You wonder if that has been what has allowed him to be quote unquote successful. Although, yes, of course, his father has bailed him out of lots of things.
Left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Because he's had that much money.
But I just wonder if the lack of ethics, like the ruthlessness, also plays into his success, right? Like if you're willing to do anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, but that's
right.
why I'm saying that's why he's doing all this stuff, is because he's in essence a mafia guy. But he's also extremely dumb.
What is it they say on Even More News? He's a crime guy.
Yeah.
The president does crimes. Yeah.
But he's really dumb. That's why I'm saying he'd be selling stolen cigarettes out of the trunk of a car, but he'd do something really stupid, so the mafia would probably bury him in that car.
Yeah.
Like, he's just...
Yeah, if he was actually dealing with mob bosses, he'd be dead a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
Tony Soprano would have dealt with him a long time ago. Okay, we call him Too Dumb Donnie. I want you to get rid of Too Dumb Donnie. He's a problem. Like...
Too Dumb Donnie's actually not bad. I like that.
I don't think he's dumb. He's smart enough to get two dumbs. I think he only gets one dumb. Like
just a one dumb one.
Well, okay, all the mafia nicknames have three things. It's like Tony the Squirrel. Like it's always got to have three.
It's good. I like it, Rene. I'm just giving you a hard time. Whatever. I don't know.
I think we'll only do one more article, and we'll do the one that you wanted to do.
Okay. Well, our friend of the show and former guest, Jen Gunter, has been posting about this issue. But I feel like I should actually just say some stuff first to give people a sense. So T.I., who is a American rapper, was on a podcast called Ladies Like Us. This podcast this episode has since been removed, but the women who were interviewing him asked T.I. if he'd had the sex talk with his daughters, and he replied, I'm going to read this verbatim because I think it's really appalling, actually, but it's instructive to hear it directly. Have I? We go. Deja's 18, just graduated high school. Now she's attending her first year of college, figuring it out for herself. And yes, not only have we had the conversation, we have yearly trips to the gynecologist to check her hymen. He then went into details about a specific visit that took place after Deja's 16th birthday. Right after the birthday, we celebrate, usually the day after the party. She's enjoying her gifts. I put a sticky note on the door. Gyno, tomorrow, 9:30, he said. We go and sit down, and the doctor will come and talk. And, the doctor is maintaining a high level of professionalism. He's like, well, sir, in order for me to share information, I say, Deja, I want you to sign this so we can share information. Is there anything that you would not want me to know? And then he recalled asking the doctor to just check the hymen, please, and give me back my results expeditiously. But I will say, as of her 18th birthday, her hymen is still intact. That, I think, is the gist of the exchange. So it's just, this kind of exploded on social media. Good news is, I don't really think anyone's defending him. So that's positive.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that. At least maybe I'm just in my bubble. I don't know. It's pretty fucking appalling. It's like,
the number of things wrong with the way he's thinking is like
what's wrong? Yeah, maybe we should enumerate them. What is wrong with this whole situation?
Okay, so I guess do we start with the fact that he's like biologically just wrong about?
Right. Okay. So yeah, we start there. Like it's the hymen's actually not an indicator of whether or not somebody's had, I don't even know, penetrative sex or whatever.
Right.
Like it's actually not indicative of that. Like a hymen could be not there just because it's never been there. It could have been damaged from several other activities. Like, for example, apparently I remember reading another article where he was told that, for example, it can be damaged bike riding or, again, you can never be wearing. And he's like, my daughter doesn't ride any bikes, so just give me the results. Like, that's what he said. Like, so, I mean, like as if like rolling his eyes of it. Oh, it's just not, you're just bullshitting me that it can be. I mean, that's just what you tell fathers. Like,
I think the list is longer than just bike riding, right? Like,
no. But that was an example.
Yeah,
like given, So I was interested in this, and I realized as I was actually really ignorant. I'm like, I actually don't know anything about hymen or what it actually looks like or where it is. So I looked it up and like looked at pictures and in a non-pornographic way. Not that it would matter if I wasn't. Anyways, so but it's kind of this piece of tissue that it can kind of cover the opening of the vagina a little bit, but sometimes not. And it's basically a membrane that it looks like a scrunchie. It's like a flesh-colored scrunchie, and it can go all the way around the outside of the entrance to the vagina. It can go just on the the posterior side, meaning the part closer to the butt. And anyways, it just. Or it can be, or can not be there at all. It can be very resilient. Women may still have it after they've given birth, or some women never have it. And it doesn't mean anything. And another thing that has been pointed out in this whole thing that I think should be stated explicitly is that virginity is actually a construct, right? It's not actually a real thing. It's just a thing. It's something that means something to people only because they give it meaning. It's not an actual. It's not an electron. It's not. It's not It's not a real thing that can be demonstrated objectively. Yeah. It's a construct. It's an idea, and it means different things to different people. And it's and honestly, it's just kind of used. It's only ever used really with usually respect to women. I mean,
naturally,
women's, I mean, I guess
because it's used as a way to control women.
I guess men might be mocked for being a virgin. I suppose that's a thing that happens as well.
That's true.
But anyways, I shouldn't say that only women suffer from ideas of virginity, but. I think another thing that's really wrong with the situation is the idea that this father would think that he has the right to know any of that. Like it's demeaning and humiliating for his daughter, and it's
I feel awful for her.
Yeah.
To have a father that considers her his property in such a way,
no boundaries, and no sense of, and to think that somehow he's a good father, or this is his role is to prevent her from having sex. I don't know, man. Like I know that a lot of people were kind of coming to her defense in social media, like the daughters, and the daughter actually unliked her father on Instagram. People noticed, which is interesting. And she also liked several posts where people were expressing support for her, going so far as to say that, something to the, I'm going to say it wrong, but thanks to everyone for their support, or thanks y'all for your support, or something like that, or I love y'all, or whatever.
It's interesting to me that he like the way he speaks of the encounter at the doctor's office. He says, he looks at his daughter and says, I need you to sign this so that we can share information. Yeah. Or is there anything you want to keep from me?
The intimidation there, and that is so abusive. I can't even, it's so bad. the other thing I wanted, and I don't think it's getting enough traction in the media, is what doctor would do this? This seems unethical. Like I don't know many. Like I don't feel like I know many gynecologists who you could go to them and say, and I want you to check my daughter's virginity, or check my daughter's hymen. And I wonder if T.I. is. I mean, maybe this is just me being. I mean, just pure speculation. But I wonder if he's just really, really ignorant of female anatomy. And I wonder if the way he said it is, maybe he said something to her like, I want you, or to the doctor, like, I want you to check her hymen. The doctor says, no, what we check is the cervix. We do a pap or whatever, or something like that. I wonder if it's something like that. Like he told the doctor, I want you to check this. And I'm like, well, we don't check that. We check this other thing. And it's like, yeah, whatever. And then he says, so is that thing okay? And he's like, yeah, it's great. And what he means is the cervix is in good shape, right? But the TI takes it to mean hymen. I don't know. But I mean, he says hymen multiple times in the interview, so maybe I'm being overly generous. I just wonder if he's just really stupid about female anatomy.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No,
but I have heard that this is something that other fathers have done.
But with a gynecologist, like I know that in some,
I know
it's a thing in some Islamic cultures, but you go to a specific person who checks. It's not a doctor, but this is a Western doctor.
Yeah, like I've heard of it happening in North America with like doctors,
like a real MDs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
like I find that bizarre. Like I don't understand. It's just ethically is so dubious to me from a medical standpoint. Like I feel like, oh man, like if this had happened to me when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, I'm so suing that dog. When I became older and more confident and more, realizing how abusive that behavior was. But for a professional who's supposed to safeguard your health, to help your father abuse you in this way, and coerce you in this way, is just like it turns the stomach, and it disgusts me.
It's something I just find kind of funny, and they always make fun of it too, where all these rappers, right? Some of the shit they say in their music, right? But as soon as if they have a daughter, then say, oh, I can't say bitch no more because now they have a daughter. It's like, well, you didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
a year ago.
That's like the conservatives also, when Pussygate was happening, all saying like, well, as a father, I disagree with Trump talking like this. Like, fuck off.
It's kind of the same.
It's not just an egregious thing without having a daughter.
What's that tweet that I saw the other day? Like, imagine being the wife of one of these guys who says like, I did once I had a daughter, I realized women were people.
Yeah. But the problem is a lot of the time they don't put up with that shit at home.
Maybe, I don't know, but all I know is that anyways, this whole situation is super abusive, and it's happening in a Western culture, which we hear about happening in other cultures, but it's just it appalled me.
Like you say, with a medical professional that's supposed to have...
I just can't even... That's what I really can't wrap my brain around. I can't wrap my brain around
as progressive as we are, we're
nowhere near as far as...
that progressive,
No, that guy ain't progressive, that's for sure. Like, I don't know.
I'm stealing the quote from the Scathing Atheist podcast.
Do it.
The amount of time that a father should be thinking about his daughter's vagina is approximately 0.
Well, if she has she has a medical condition or something, and you worry about her health, I heard whatever. Understandable.
I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but they went a slightly different way with it, where they were talking about how he's so obsessed with her virginity, and she's like, sure, I didn't lose my virginity until I was, I can't remember what she said, like 21, but didn't stop me from blowing my boyfriend in the library, which no one had heard that story until now. Or all those bad jokes. Yeah, sure, virgin, unless you count anal.
Because somehow, penetrative sex is the only thing that
counts as
sex.
Anyways, I'm just without words. Like it's just so, and for him to just brag about how this is like a great thing,
right? Yeah, like he thinks he's
not
a hero
about
for
it. Like I don't understand. Like I'm so, the level of entitlement you have to have in order to think that is mind boggling. Like it's like Trump releasing the not transcript of the phone call. Like you just so delusional as to think that this isn't. That it's exculpatory. Like it's so bad. Like to not realize that, to be so deluded.
I wonder if in a culture that has like purity pledges with daughters and fathers, and like dads who like threaten boyfriends with shotguns and like jokes about that all throughout all of our culture. Like
yes.
You know, like
what is with those jokes? Everyone stop making those fucking jokes. They're not funny.
Agreed.
They're not funny. Like, and they're demeaning, and they're
what was that? I think it was Duck Dynasty. They did it where it's like the joke where it's like throws a shotgun shell at the guy. If she comes back after 10, they come at you a lot faster.
Yeah, those jokes.
Yeah, those jokes. Meanwhile, you know damn well those guys were trying to get as much as they possibly could when they were.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Such a weird culture.
But that whole exchange that you just said, the thing about how I'm going to throw whatever, come at you faster if he comes back after 10, and how they were going after sex when they were that age, that there's no discussion of the actual woman there, the young girl there, right? Like it's just, it doesn't, like, it's like she's irrelevant,
right?
Like in fact,
object.
she's the opposite of irrelevant, and it's actually completely up to her, and that's it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. But
exactly.
But it's that same old dichotomy that's always happened, right? Guys can go out and bang as many women as they possibly can, and they're studs. A woman, well, she's more than one guy, and she's a whore. You know, like, it takes two to tango unless there's something really illegal going on here.
There's definitely...
Pump the brakes here. Wait, hold up.
There's definitely some... Yeah. I don't know. I guess we kind of talked about this way back when I did that bit on rape culture. Mm-hmm. Like, some of this plays into that. Like, the whole idea of, like, ownership of women's bodies by the men in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just bizarre to me, like, that somehow she's not allowed to have sex. Is that what that means? She's 18. She's not allowed to choose to do that. Is that what that means? I don't know.
Well, it's like all those jokes where it's like, well, yeah, she's not allowed to date until she's 30, and you know, and then they, you know, those kind of things, and
it's like saying I don't want my child to experience the normal range of human experiences.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
what a weird thing to think.
It is weird. It's so weird. I don't understand. I mean, maybe if birth control had never been invented, maybe, I mean, I think all of these things stem from that period,
ultimately,
right?
And that's just where reality always steps in and creates irony, right? You have, like, a lot of the southern states have abstinent programs, and they have the most teen pregnancies.
Right.
Yeah.
and venereal, STIs and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It just
the most conservative areas always, you know, have you ever seen that map? I know Vice has shown it a couple times where they show the map of all the porn searches in different areas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And it's hilarious because the most conservative states,
okay,
all the most gay porn. It's all gay porn.
Oh.
It's hilarious. And then they did it on a worldwide one. Same thing. Saudi Arabia has the most gay porn searches.
Really?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
All the people who are the most uptight about it.
Is it because they can't get it in real life? Is that a thing? Like, is that maybe a
thing?
It
could be a part of it. Could very well be
so closeted that, like, they're not getting that sexual fulfillment in real life. So it
could be the titillation, right? Like, oh, this is banned and forbidden. I must find it.
Oh, I see.
You know, meanwhile, if it's, you know, in your very liberal California, it's like,
So what?
I don't watch gay porn because I don't want to.
Yeah.
It doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
But
if you want to watch it, you go nuts.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of part of it, right? Does nothing for me, but you want to go right ahead.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
It's banned and forbidden. Oh, must search.
Yeah, what is it about the idea, like, that, like, okay, it's not for me, so, but, I mean, if you're into it, whatever, versus the person who's, like, I don't know, disgusted by it, but also searching for it in secret. Like, where does that...
Because it's probably a little bit the closeted thing, right? Like, if you have... Think of it this way. When you're underage, how many of our friends went out and got just blasted all the time they could, drinking? But once they were legal, the thrill was not as there, right? You know,
I mean, they say that the most important sex organ we have as humans is our brains, right? Like, so it's in your mind. Things like that can totally...
Well, I guess it speaks to the fact that you can't actually change your orientation, right? Like, no matter how much you might wish you weren't gay, Or you might wish you weren't.
No, but I believe you can actually pray away the gay.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yeah, it rhymes too. Yeah.
Well,
you can.
Probably the rhyming is
heard
what makes it work.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is that therapist that hugs it away. That doesn't rhyme.
Hugs away the gay.
Yeah, he hugs away the gay.
But that doesn't rhyme. How does that work?
I'm not sure, but he claims it works. Meanwhile, I think he's just a cuddle slut.
Which is fine.
It's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
If he was out front about it, it'd be fine. But he's trying to say it's therapy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to be cuddled by a therapist. That's
No.
gross.
Unless I'm paying them for it.
Well, I mean, if you're into,
Specifically.
it's cool with me. This is what I really don't get is people who have an opinion about what other people find arousing.
Yes.
Or sexual or attractive. Like, I just don't have an opinion about what other, like, I don't feel like I need to have an opinion about what other people
like
find
what I
attractive.
like, but that's not-
fine. And you like
Yeah.
what you like, and I'm fine with it. It doesn't actually affect me, actually. Like, so, like, whatever. Like, I just can't even, like, I can't imagine caring. Like, I just can't. As long as everything's consensual, I don't care. Like, you do whatever works for you.
It's interesting. Or go ahead.
It's part of, as like I said, I was doing that stand-up comedy thing, and it's one of the jokes I kind of did in class was, I'm not here to kink shame. Whatever happens between 2, 3, 16 consenting adults, that's your business.
Fair game.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't care.
However the geometry works on that, that's up to you.
You know what's great for that? Reddit. Oh my God. I'm such a voyeur, like a Reddit voyeur. There's nothing to, like, it's just writing, but like people talk about their sex lives and all these different subs that I'm on. And it's sometimes I don't want to know, but oftentimes it's so interesting. Like, oh my, like, I don't know. I just find it fascinating, like, in a very like academic way. I'm just like, that's so fun. Oh man. Do we have time for me to tell a funny story about what I read on Reddit the other day? This guy, because people are always asking advice, right? So this guy is asking advice. He's trying to figure out, he says, I shouldn't even have brought this. Angela should have brought this up. She would bring this up better than me. He had this girlfriend and she started like squirting during orgasm.
Okay.
Except he figured out months later that it's actually just pee because it smells and tastes like pee. And then the bed smells like pee and then it dribbles out like pee. Anyway, it's just pee. Anyways, and should he tell his girlfriend or not? Because she's really into it. She's so excited. And she feels so sexy. Anyways, it was hilarious. And I felt bad for the guy, but I thought it was hilarious. And then there was a bunch of articles posted, like people have done studies into this, like, is squirting in women a real thing? And oh my God, and I went down a rabbit hole and it was hilarious. But the answer does seem to be from science that it's just pee.
Yes.
Which makes sense because biologically, I mean, I know a lot about anatomy because of the line of work I do. There's actually nothing else that can come out of the urethra because it's connected to the bladder.
Right.
And that's it.
But it's also okay if she feels sexy from it. You know?
Absolutely, totally cool. But the boyfriend wasn't into it, and he wanted to tell her this, and he didn't know how. And he was like really, really, really worried about her feelings. Like, it was really sweet. It was like so, but it was everyone was just like, "Oh, dude, yeah, you got to tell her." But that's hilarious, man.
You're inadvertently into water sports.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's like, unfortunately, I'm just not into that, and yeah. So, anyways, it was. People gave good advice, which was to encourage communication. It was hilarious.
That's good. And it's Reddit. That's kind of odd, but okay. Yeah.
At least it wasn't 4chan.
I don't get a lot of shit on Reddit. No? I don't know what it is. Like, I don't get a lot of terrible maybe I just don't follow those subs, but I get a lot of like complete sentences and supportive things.
It is better than Facebook and Twitter for that.
It's better than a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, and it, I don't know. I guess you can really curate what you get, I guess. But like, yeah, I really like Reddit in terms of just finding interesting. I'm on all the relationship one. I'm just so interested. I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just want to know all about people's lives. And like,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
well, they're posting. I'm not like I'm like prying. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Not like you've hacked into all their nanny
no,
cams.
I'm just well, not all of them.
Not all of them. Yeah. 1 or 2.
Yeah.
All right. And on that note, I think we'll close this out. For all the things, you can check out the show notes on our website, brainstormblog.net, and our hosting page, brainstormpodcast.ca. Thanks to our financial supporters. I'll check out our list of patrons and read them off for the next show. If you want to support the show, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast, or you can do a one-time donation at paypal.me/brainstormpodcast. And if you want Brainstorm gear, then you can get it at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. Somebody actually has to buy something there. They almost closed the store. I had to email back and forth. because it's been so long since there's been activity. So I was like, okay, please don't close our store. We're starting the show again someday. But
Today's the day.
Today's the day. That's right. Thanks to Dave for our intro music, and thank you to our new editor, Callie Wright. You can find all of her stuff at queersplaining.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. Actually, we didn't play any music this time. And we might not do that anymore. Breaks will just be breaks.
But are we live?
Nope.
Well,
So
I think you're just mad that I played Steve Earle once.
I still...
That can never happen again. Must remove all possibilities.
That one song that you picked, that Union song,
Oh, yeah.
Union Man or
Oh, that's a good
whatever.
one.
Yeah, I kept adding it to the list, hoping that we'd play it on the next time, and it just never happened.
Also, that's not Steve Earle. So just FYI. Great song, though.
It is. And remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, share the show, and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. Thanks, you guys, for joining me. And thanks for listening. Remember, the truth matters.